we're here with David Spiegelhalter and Alex Freeman from the Winton Centre for Risk and Evidence Communication here at Cambridge. David, can you tell us what the centre is and sort of what the motivations were behind setting up the centre?
I think we know that numbers and scientific facts are very important in society. They're part of the news, and increasingly we're presented with these when we have to make our own personal decisions, whether they're health or financial or who to vote for example. And so the way that those are communicated is incredibly important. We know that numbers can be manipulated to make them look big or to make them look small, depending on how someone wants to make you feel. And this centre is set up to try to counter that, I suppose, to try to develop and work with people who want to communicate quantitative evidence, statistics perhaps, usually, in a way that's impartial, that really is genuinely to try to inform people rather than persuade them or coerce them into thinking in a particular way. This involves both working with agencies and anyone who wants to communicate in a balanced, impartial way, but also with trying to empower audiences to be able to critique the numbers that they're told, whether they're patients being told about what treatment they might want, whether they're, again, citizens being told about reading what's in the news, or whether they're policymakers getting advice from their analysts in the civil service.
Alex, you have a different background to David's. You've got a background in journalism and broadcasting. Does that sound familiar to you, this idea of numbers being used perhaps intentionally or not to confuse or to persuade people?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've never used one to confuse. I can definitely not fess up to that one. But for us in journalism, numbers were tools. You know, they were ways of helping you tell the story. And you chose the numbers to tell the story that you as a journalist wanted to tell. Now, I worked mainly at the BBC in science journalism, and I had a science background. So I was always trying to tell a story that I thought was important. But yes, I did use the numbers. But I think the reason why I wanted to come and work at this centre and leave behind the broadcasting background was because it seems like a different way to try and get across the messages that I was trying to get across in journalism, which is just to help people, as David said, help people understand science and understand the world around them. And the centre has a bigger remit, so we're looking at, as David said, at policy as well as science things. We're looking at how barristers can communicate forensic evidence to juries. So I just think there's really important things that we're tackling that I hope we can help with.
And David, can you tell us a bit more about the kind of research you're doing at the centre, sort of some specific examples perhaps of what you're looking at?
Yes, our research is very much in conjunction with psychologists, people in the Department of Psychology and our own postdocs, psychology postdocs, because we're looking at the most effective ways to communicate sometimes quite complex information in the most balanced way. And so a particular example is we're working on revamping the PREDICT system, which is the most widely used international system for women who've just been diagnosed with breast cancer, to tell them about what their survival prospects might be and recurrence prospects might be over the next 10 years. And this is being, having new statistical base put in it, which we're not responsible for, but we are responsible for the interface. And this is one that's going to be used both by clinicians and patients, and in particular the combination for clinicians to explain to patients about what the possible harms and benefits of alternative treatments might be, so that they can make a more informed choice about their treatment. And this is a complex issue, and we're definitely in a way co-producing it with patients and with the audiences who are going to use this system. And that's just an exemplar of the kind of very individual risk communication that's very important. But the other area is in societal impacts of alternative policies, where we're looking at, we might look at, for example, e-cigarettes or fracking or any of these, major issues where there's the science behind them is actually can be quite uncertain, it can be contested, there's uncertainty about what the impacts might be, and these need to be communicated in as transparent and honest a way as possible. And we're reviewing how this is done at the moment and how it might be improved. A particular interest of ours is researching the way that uncertainty is communicated, say about unemployment figures. Something I often quote is that when we receive the quarterly changes in unemployment in this country, and they tell us it's gone up by 10, 12,000 or something. They don't report that the margin of error around that figure is plus or minus 80,000 due to the survey. Nobody reports that, nobody knows it. And I suspect that a lot of that lack of reporting is they feel, well, if we told everybody that was the margin of error, who would believe us? You know, our credibility would go. And I think that's really distressing. And so we're actively trying to research how you can communicate uncertainty about a fact without losing trust and credibility. And in this age in which there's acclaimed increasing mistrust of experts, which I don't actually believe, but which is claimed, these ideas seem to be incredibly important.
It's quite interesting, Alex, that the work you are doing, it seems to be both working with lots of different disciplines from the research side, but you're trying to appeal to a number of different audiences. I mean, is that quite an unusual sort of fit for a centre here at a university, or?
Possibly for a centre here at the university, certainly not for me. I mean, I'm used to moving from one audience to another on different channels. So I think as a journalist, the thing that is at the heart of everything you do is the audience, and what do they need to know, and how can you help them understand that. And so that's very much the same ethos that we've got at the centre, is what does this particular audience need to know if they're making a decision about their own health. Then they need to know as individualised pieces of information as you can give them. If they're making a decision in government about a whole policy, then how can you help them understand how a policy might affect different people in different sectors of the populations, and what an alternative policy might do. So I think one of the things that I can bring is that audience focus.
And so what are you both hoping the long-term impact will be of a centre like this? Are you hoping to change the way journalists work? Are you hoping to change the way governments use evidence? What would you like to see as an impact of the work?
All of that and more. All of that and more. Change the world. Change the world. Yeah, we're aiming to change the world. We're hoping really to work with others. For a start, we cannot do anything on our own. So to work with many other agencies who want to improve the way in which science, statistics, evidence is used in society at an individual level and at a societal level. And that means improving the way that it's communicated from people who do it, and improving the ability of audiences to critique and to understand what they're getting. So we're trying to work with in both directions at the same time, and they might possibly even meet in the middle.
I'd say, as a country, we've got vast amounts of resources put into scientific research. We've got fantastic research going on, across the world. So scientists are doing all this work, and there's not always enough resources put into translating that evidence and putting it in the public domain and in the domain of people who are making decisions that need that evidence. So I think that our centre has a really important role in bridging that gap between those two.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.